Well, happy Tuesday, everybody. April 18th, and I decided to go live to talk a little bit about my past weekend. Some of you know that I talked during my last episode about an upcoming trip to Collegedale, Tennessee for a 35th high school reunion. And that, in fact, happened. And there's a few things I wanted to talk about it. Um, I didn't even write anything down. I just decided to go live, so we'll just kind of flow with it. So I arrived down there on Thursday at my buddy's house, who was incredibly gracious to me. Um, had me over at his house, and he and his wife allowed me to stay there for a few days, and it was a great time catching up with him. Now, he is a friend of mine that I met in ninth grade. He and I both attended Collegedale Academy. He ended up graduating from there. I did not, but he wasn't raised Seventh Day Adventist. He his family kind of just got into it, and so, but in turn, he was familiar with the Adventist theology. But shortly after departing from that, from the academy, he didn't hold on to that denomination much longer. And what I'll say is, he's very, very involved in a Baptist church there in the Ottawa area. And when we got there that night, we had he ran a Bible study, and so I sat in on that. And the conversation was about Easter and the resurrection and everything. So it was a really nice little Bible study that we had there. And then when that was over, a couple of our classmates just kind of hung out until the wee hours, just talking and reminiscing, and it just hanging out. And it was just so good for my soul, man. It was so good for my soul. And the next morning, I really felt weird about it, everybody. But the next morning, oh, I hate to tell you what I did. But the next morning, I participated in a golf outing for Collegedale Academy. There was like $125 um, cost to get into this little outing. And friends, I was surrounded. I mean, I was surrounded by Adventists. And if there was a former Adventist there, and I'm sure there probably was, but I'm pretty sure also the vast majority were Adventists. And it wasn't a bad day. It was a very good day, actually. And there were a number of things that I felt really positive that occurred. So in the foursome of which I was a part of was my friend who I attended eighth grade through my sophomore year. He kind of included me into it because I said somebody had basically in my class on Facebook, they had said, "Hey, does anybody want to golf?" I was kind of thinking, "Oh, it's just going to be some friends golfing." I didn't realize this was like a Collegedale Academy benefit thing. I didn't understand that. Otherwise, I don't know that I would have done it, but maybe it's best that I didn't know. So I'll continue. So I have my one buddy who I've known for many, many years, who is still an Adventist, and then he has two of his buddies, also Adventist. And again, I didn't know what to expect. So we start golfing that morning, and it doesn't take too many holes. And somehow it comes up that I'm a former. And at sometime shortly thereafter, one of those two had asked me what had led to it. And I hadn't planned on it. I was just thinking I'm going to come here and play golf and hopefully avoid any debates. But when somebody asks me that question, especially when an Adventist asks me that question, I want to tell them. And so I did, and it was actually a pretty good conversation. I kind of gave them some of the answers that you probably saw in my very first video, why I left Adventism. Um, so that was cool. That was cool. Um, After that, there at some point in time, the conversation continued throughout the round, and at one point in time, I started giving my list of what would have to change, or I'm sorry, it wasn't what would have to change. It was my list of issues that I had, and so naturally, it got to Ellen White, and I pointed out that to the Adventist Church, whether they will acknowledge it or not, they Ellen White is the final authority on all scriptural interpretation, period. At which time my friend said, "That's not true," which I thought, oh, I really don't want to have a argument with my friend about this. But I heard him out and he informed me, maybe this is his opinion, but he said he believes there's going to be a split in the Adventist church over this topic. And I asked him, I said, "Are you talking about like the North American church compared to the world church?" And he confirmed that. If you have stayed up to date with Adventist theology, well, you're better than I am, because this issue was something from 17 years ago. The world church has a greater number of votes. The North American church has the greatest amount of money. And what's happening is the North American church wants to become more liberal. The world church is far more conservative. So it was kind of, I thought that's good, but I still told him it's still going to take a lot more than that to get me to ever go back. Don't ever see myself going back. And throughout the round, my friend and I continued to give him my list of things that would have to change in order for me to ever come back. They would have to, they would have to well, I'm sorry. I'm going to go through the list. My whole videos talk about all the problems. Those are the things I addressed in him. And I finally said to this, the longest one the one that's going to take the greatest amount of time is when you put Ellen White aside, it's going to take 30 years. It's going to take 30 years until you get her entirely. I said it, until you get her entirely out of your theology, because she's in it all. And you can throw aside the testimonies and the desire of ages and all those, doesn't matter. She is all up in every Adventist doctrine. My friend that I was staying with, he said, "I think it's going to take a whole generation," and it may. It may take 40 years. If the church ever made this huge step, it would still take 40 years to get straightened out. So that was really good. Another positive thing that happened was with my friend with whom I was staying. Um, I think his eyes were opened, even though he had been in Adventism for a good portion of his life. He really didn't see great differences between a traditional Christian denomination and Seventh day Adventism. He kind of thought it was just like the Sabbath, maybe State of the Dead. But when the weekend was over, he confirmed to me his eyes had been opened. He really saw how um, how sick, how twisted, how um, boy, just what a problem Adventism actually has. I also introduced him. I introduced my buddy to the Test the Prophet series. He started watching those and immediately posted, like, I think the introductory video on his Facebook page. And I'm like, dude. And remember, he's down there he's around Southern College. He's around Collegeville Academy. They all have Adventists in their periphery. And he's sharing that. I'm like, dude, this is, but he's on fire. He wants to share it. Okay. That's entirely, and I'm just thrilled. The more people the more people that can watch and are familiar with Test the Prophet and his whole series, the better. Um, as I've said before, that video series is so important because it allows me to see with my own eyes the original book and the original Ellen White book and see exactly where she was plagiarizing it word for word. And then it also allows you to see how the White estate and the Adventist church as a whole have modified things, removed things. It's really, really crafty and really, really shady. The other thing that I did was on Saturday night, a number of us got together on like a big steamboat, steam wheeler boat down in downtown Chattanooga on the river, and we had a great little party there. It was so great to see some of my friends. The thing I notice is, back in 1988 when I graduated, um, I would say we had a class of like 60 some people, and I would say at least 50 of those were probably, they would all label themselves as Seventh day Adventists. I don't think it's nearly that number now. It's not near. And I'd say that based upon how do I want to word this? Based upon the drinks that people had that night, I would say they're probably not Adventists. You guys need to understand something. Scott Roark is not a guy who is against drinking. Not against drinking. Do I partake in drinking? Yes, I do. Hope that doesn't rub you the wrong way, but I have freedom in Christ and I take advantage of that freedom. And so that's not something that you see in Seventh day Adventism very often. So either they're not Adventists anymore, or maybe they're not strong Adventists, or, and here it is, maybe they are very liberal. And this is the thing. In a couple weeks, wait for it, I'm going to be going to another little get together with some students that attended Mount Vernon Academy, another Adventist academy, the one I graduated from. And what I'm confident I will see at that gathering is that it will look nothing. It will look nothing like what I just experienced in Collegedale. And that right there is something that I find very interesting. And that is in the North American Seventh day Adventist Church, you see very dramatically different ways of living out their Christianity. Down south, it is a far more liberal, especially when in the view of alcohol or even the diet. But man, when you get up north, you find far more conservative. Okay. And really this past weekend, it really did strike me that way, just that dramatic difference. Again, not here to chastise or endorse drinking. Everybody needs to make that decision for themselves. I made it for myself. I live according to what I think is right. You got to do what you believe is right as the Holy Spirit guides you. But I just wanted to let you guys know it was a good good weekend. I felt encouraged by it. Whenever somebody leaves Adventism, I'm always encouraged. It's pretty much 100% of the time. Whenever somebody leaves Adventism, I'm always happy. If especially when their eyes are open and they can taste freedom for the first time, that is always a great thing for me. I really wish I hadn't given $125 to the school, but what are you going to do? Hopefully it'll help somebody. So anyway, I just wanted to give you a little update on that. Hope you guys are all doing well. Be sure and tell your friends about this page. And if you're not already, please be sure to follow us. As all the kids say in their videos, be sure to follow and smash that like button, whatever those kids say. I don't get it. I'm 53 years old. I ain't got time for all that. Anyhow, I just wanted to pop in and say hey to everybody. Hope you're having a great week, and I hope to see you real soon. Take care.